Good afternoon, everyone. Y'all are like, I'm eating. Relax. Well, thank you all so much for being here for Power Rising. If you know what's going on outside, you know why it is important that we are embodying power right now. This afternoon, we have the great privilege and honor of talking to you all about America at 250, lessons learned and the path forward in politics and media. We have some tremendous voices joining us this afternoon. They are your sisters, some of y'all your sister friends, so please make sure you pour out the love as I introduce them quickly. First we have Jotaka Eaddy. She's a strategist, advocate, the CEO of Full Circle Strategies, and our fearless leader for Win with Black Women. Give it up. Y'all do better than that. This is Jotaka Eaddy. Next we have a local Southside Chicago girly, Keiana Barrett. She's the CEO of Business Leadership Council. And last but certainly not least, she is a mentor to many of us. She's certainly someone we aspire to. Why are you cheating already? I was going ahead and give you a grand opening. She said, I got bad knees, I gotta get up when I get up. Okay. Well, this woman is a legendary history maker. She is a legacy builder. She has represented us so well on airwaves all over, from CNN to Fox to ABC News. Now she's a political analyst. She is strategist Donna Brazile. All right, ladies, let's get into it. Okay, so I want to open up with the focus poll, in part because I'm not a pollster and have no business, but I can't count hands. So I want to do this. How many of you all see America's founding as 1776? Raise your hands. Uh-oh. What about 1619? Raise your hands. All right, so we got some people just not voting. Our votes are suppressed enough. I need y'all to raise your hands next time, but we're going to keep going. But we at least have more 1619 folks, and I wanted to start there because every time I hear right now about America's 250, one, I'm seeing too many red caps. Sorry, I'm about to be real partisan. If I'm violating the rules, just let me know later. Charge it to my head and on me, not the organization. But seeing a lot of red caps, a lot of Make America Great Agains, and not so many folks who recognize our contributions to the history of this country. So my question for you all is, as we consider what Frederick Douglass said, what to the slave is the 4th of July? I want us to think about what to the enslaved descendant is the 4th of July, and how should we really be commemorating the 250th anniversary of this country that still, Jotaka, refuses to see us, in an era where our funding is being cut left and right for any DEI program that we sought to put on the map. That was not even the truth just 6 years ago. What to the enslaved descendant is this 250th anniversary?
Well, good evening, Power Rising. Oh, it's so good to be in this space in this room.
It's the afternoon still, girl. Ain't that much time went by? Afternoon.
Oh, afternoon. You know, Angela, first of all, and it's just such an honor just to be in presence of Black women and all of the brilliances in this room and on this stage. I would, I think we were chatting about this, and I was thinking about 250 years, and when we think about it, I think about 1619, and I think about for so many of our existence in this country, we have been enslaved and or under Jim Crow. So really approximately about 60 years of perceived freedom in this country. And when I think about 250 years later, I think many will try to celebrate this country with fireworks, but really, if we're honest, this country is unfinished. And freedom, by all means, then the media is going to try to measure it with fireworks and all of these glorious stories, but the reality is that we are not free. And when we think about particularly Black people and Black women, when we think about this country, we have built this country, and Angela, I know you You have said this. And I think there's some T-shirts to say this, that we built this country for free. And that is a reality. And when we think about what we have inherited, like right now, like we have, against all odds, and in spite of the odds, we have built wealth that we did not inherit. It is wealth that we had to take in this country, that we had to build. We continue to fight for a democracy that we do not fully get to enjoy. And we still hold truths, particularly as black women, that America has not and is still not ready to be heard. And so in this moment, I think we cannot confuse visibility with freedom. Just because they can see us does not mean that they respect us, nor that we are free. And yes, we have made some strides, but not nearly enough. I think one statistic I was reading is that I believe it was in I want to get the stat right, but I believe it was 1957 or 1956. Black Americans earned, I think it was approximately 58% on the dollar for wealth. And then if you fast forward some 50 years later, it only moved up by 4 pennies. And so while we have had progress, I think the rate of our progress is absolutely for me enraging. And so in this moment, I think we have to trust in our faith. What we've always known is that our resistance is our power, but also not to confuse visibility and the advancement of just a few of us as freedom for all of us.
That's good, Joe. Keiana, I want to come to you because part of what Jotaka just referenced is something that I feel is going to be a tremendous black hole. Of course, you being a Chicago resident, we lost a legend with Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. Reverend Jackson's imprint could be felt from the technology industry to Wall Street to the automotive industry and so much more. I want to sit here for just a moment because when we're thinking about all of the black women, some of you in this room who have been impacted by this economy, lost jobs that you didn't deserve to lose, right? You now are starting to figure out ways that you can pour back into your communities. And some of the ways that we do that is by starting businesses. Even when we go and start our own thing, we get hit hard because we don't get the venture capital and private equity money that we deserve. And certainly, a lot of our businesses that did once get that money were getting supported by giants like Reverend Jackson. Talk about what we can do in this room as our power is rising to ensure that that does not continue to be our reality.
Well, thank you so much for the question, and thank you for all of you being here today. I think it's so apropos that we are having this conversation as we are breaking bread, because many of our strategy sessions happen when we are feeding our bodies. But we also need to make sure that we're nourishing our minds and our spirits. So I want to thank the architects of this conclave because it's ever so important that we do so. And to your point, I am a proud daughter of the South Side of Chicago. Yes, represent. And a graduate of the Rainbow Push Coalition. So I know I got some fellow graduates in the house. And so to your point, you know, as we reflect upon Reverend Jackson's work and the commitment to keep hope alive, it is extremely important that we are intentional about ensuring that conversations such as this and commemorations, 250 years is not a commemoration, it's a call to action. So I've not been thinking about it in a celebratory way, but more in the veins of what was promised and what's been delivered. We need not to spend a nauseating amount of time restating the lack of opportunities, but it is harnessing the power that's in this very room. And so I'm sure all of us have been to any number of conventions and conferences and meetings, and while it is a wonderful opportunity to connect with familiar faces, we have to get to a place where we are ensuring that we are advancing the needle. So it's no coincidence that this conversation is taking place in the city of Chicago. So I just want to reflect on a few things that we have happening within our city. You heard earlier from our mayor, who is a very progressive leader who is championing policy and issues that are going to make sure that the least of these, those that have been historically marginalized, now have a mainstream opportunity. We have the Rainbow Push Conference that will be taking place in June, that again serves as another opportunity for us to caucus, not just for the sake of meeting, but to meet with an agenda. At the same time, we have the Obama Presidential Center, which will break ground on Juneteenth. And so these are moments. We also have an opportunity to send the second Black woman to the U.S. Senate from Illinois, because that's what we do here in Chicago. But all of these intersections will matter not if we do not have a blueprint. When we think about Project 2025, it was authored in 2022. So it has taken them merely 3 years to draft and to fully implement a strategy to keep many of us at a point of disadvantage. It is imperative that everywhere we go, that every conversation that we have is guided by an agenda, that we can hold one another accountable for, that we can ensure that our legislators are advancing, that we can be clear as to what indeed we are championing. So Ida B. Wells coined herself as an investigative journalist. She kept a pen and paper with her at all times, which my kids laugh at me all the time, like, Mama, why are you walking around the house with a pen and a paper? But I'm always ready to take notes. So I would challenge you, as you're here these next 3 days, have your pen and your paper. Be intentional about making sure that you're creating a strategy that will allow us to make sure that we are advancing the needle and that we're creating economic mobility, voter opportunity, and engagement that is going to advance the next wave of this movement.
Thank you, Keiana. I want to come to you, Donna. Part of what I was sitting here thinking about, and I know we could use your wisdom on this, is in this era, in this hour of great despair, right on the other side of the midterms, we know that they plan to cut Medicare and Medicaid because they didn't want the Republican Party to suffer the consequences of that before the midterms. But the question that I really have is, yes, we have the conscience of the Congress and the Congressional Black Caucus. Yes, we have tremendous advocates at the state and local level in certain states and cities throughout the country. But where do we go for relief at the national level in our body politic? When you look at the Supreme Court, they're talking about gutting Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. They're challenging, or it's, at least birthright citizenship has been challenged. Affirmative action, of course, has been gutted, and reproductive justice has also been challenged. When you look at the halls of Congress, they're so busy telling Donald Trump he is the second coming of Christ, much to Pope Leo's chagrin. And then, of course, you look at the executive branch, and we just don't even need to go there. So I want to know where you see us going for relief. And if it's to each other, how do we convene around the power that will make a difference?
Well, first of all, thank you once again for inviting me back to Power Rising. It's always a great honor to be with my sisters, to just be in your presence, to soak up the enormous energy and brilliance that is all over this room. You represent more than just yourself when you're seated or standing or on the stage or even at a reception. You represent our struggle, our continuity, and of course, our resistance. Angela, before I answer your question, which I will do, what? I promise to, look, is my soror president in the room? I'm gonna be on my best behavior. I just joined the Delta, thank you, sister, my sister president leader. Thank you, Cheryl. Sister Turner. I'm not going to mess up today. I am a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority. I'm proud of that. And it's the first time y'all seen me. I had my red jacket ready, but I might wear it on Sunday after I saw Mel with her red on. I might wear that on Sunday, so I've already given you an advance look at what I'm going to look like. All right, I got to say this because on my dad's side of the family, my family's been here over 400 years. On my mom's side, over 395. I served on the Tricentennial Commission for the City of New Orleans. That's how long I know my family has been around. So America at 250 is a story still being written. It's a story of two rivers. And I like to use the metaphor of a river because I grew up one block from the mighty Mississippi River. So every time it rained, we had waterfront property. Many of you know that the river is a strong metaphor because it talks about how the currents of life flows, both within our control and beyond our control. And so for many of us in this room, and maybe I should say all of us in this room, we sit on the side of the river that we know freedom was finally delivered. So for me, Juneteenth is my celebration. And 2 weeks later, it is the celebration that America is going to have for July 4th. Now, I'm not popping nobody's firecrackers, and I'm not getting red, white, and blue balloons or cupcakes. This is a story that has to be written by us. Yes. Because when they declared our independence with bold and perfect words that all were created equal, we knew that those words ignited a revolution, but those words did not include us. That's true. And so we have to be very clear about that. Don't be, trying to figure it out. It did not include us. So for 250 years, generation after generation had to step forward to close that gap. First as abolitionists, as suffragists, and yes, the civil rights movement that took us across a bridge bleeding so that one day we could cross that bridge. We know our story, and we must not be ashamed to tell our story because it is America's story. They cannot erase us, nor can they erase who we have become as a result of our progress. So Juneteenth should have very significant meaning to all of us. And resistance has to be our model. Yes. And don't be afraid. I am Catholic, and I am proud to say my Pope is from the south side of Chicago. With New Orleans roots to boot. So if you know anything about my hometown, you know everything about Chicago, you should not be touching this, Donald Trump. And so here's what we should start talking about. Let's stop talking about how we're victims of what they're doing to us. They are creating their own mass graves. They're not putting us in the grave. We are rising from slavery. We're rising from a civil rights struggle, and we need to understand that we're going to come through it and come out of this stronger, more bolder, and better than we've ever been, because the test we're going through is testing our character. And if you allow them to define you based on what their criteria, then we'll never survive this. My great-great-great-grandparents survived because they knew at the other end of this, I would be here. And so did your great-great-great. You didn't come from nothing, you came from something. So where do we go after the November 3rd election, which is 200 days from today? Well, first, we're going to prepare for that. Melanie's absolutely right. When we show up, we change the entire electorate. We can be in a state like ours, and y'all can count 10 black people, and yet in the last election, a black woman won in Drake County. How did she do that? You can be in the state of Georgia and see this and that and other things happen. A black woman wins statewide. How did she do that? My friends, my sisters, we are rising. And if we allow them to stop us, that's on us. And then you have to explain that when you get to the pearly gates to your grandmother and your great-grandmother and your great-grandfather, how the hell you sat down when it was time for you to go through the fire. So get ready to go through the fire, because we're going to come out on the other side better. We're going to come out stronger. We're going to have a testimony. We got to go through it in order for them to understand that you don't ever tell us to sit down. You can't fire enough of us. All right? And I got one last thing to say. Y'all eat y'all food, because I'm on a diet until I eat mine. When a black man can pilot us to the moon and back, but when a black woman can develop a GPS system to get him there, y'all better know we're rising. They can't stop us. They can't erase us. They cannot even challenge us. But if you give them your doggone power, they will doggone take it. So keep your power, build community. Let's stay unified as a people. And if we can stay unified as a people, we build community, we come out of 2026. We're in begging. We're not tokens. We are prepared to deliver. In this moment, you know what we have to do? Stand up for the people who are being marginalized. That's why I stand up for the migrants in my community. I stand, look, here I go. No estudio español. Me habla español.
Madam Senator.
Madam
Senator.
Okay? I don't speak it, but I understand that I need to know it. Because you hurt them, you hurt me. You discriminate against them, you discriminate against me. When you treat them with disdain, that's how you treated us. Don't you separate yourself from what they're doing to the migrants. They're doing that to us, to you. So stand up, speak up, show up, and don't be afraid to come out of this fire. Yeah, get yourself together. You're hot. Because you're going to get stinky hot when this is over with. And we're going to see the other side. But get ready to write your story. I got one. Thank you.
Madam Senator. This was good, Donna. This was a brilliant, fire-filled speech, and I still want you to answer my question. So I want you, because I think it's important for people to understand, and obviously you all know who Donna is to us, but you have a unique purview from which you sat for many years in being able to assess what's happening in the government. So again, when we go back and we look at the three branches, where do we go? I'm clear about the fourth branch. You said we've got to build community. Our power has to rise. But is there something else that we need to be doing in this moment as we gear up for elections? Too much of our attention, as you know, is spent on telling black people to go vote and not engage in all the other ways for the other 364 days of the year. So what are the things that we must be doing to ensure we see relief, to ensure we hold them accountable?
Well, let's start with the fact that no one should come into our communities and tell us to get out to vote without asking us what they're voting for. We know what we're voting for. We want a budget that says justice. We want to ensure in terms of the appointments, who sets the agenda, who's setting the policy. Because we need bold leadership, not just on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., where I call home, but we need bold leadership here. We need bold leadership in the other 35 states holding gubernatorial elections. Let's start 36 states holding, plus the 3 territories. 36, 3 territories, and D.C. with our mayoral race. We need to have an agenda for the governors. We need to have an agenda for the senators and all 435 members of Congress, all 6,000 state legislators, all 19,000 city council members, all 12,000 school board members, and many, many more. So every election is important, Angela, because if we don't set the tone where we live, where we work, where we play, and where we pray, then we cannot set the agenda in Washington, D.C. They're too busy looking at some polls. You need a poll to tell me that people without housing are in pain. 25% of people on ACA could not afford their first month premium this year. 25%. That's millions of Americans who do not have the health care that they need in order to survive. So we need to set an agenda. We need to be bold about it. And please, when people tell, oh, we don't have the money. Well, you had enough doggone money to bomb those little girls in Iran. I could have told you, but then you could have called Zelensky and asked him, how do you take a drone out the sky? I mean, how do you take a Radio Shack? Y'all know about Radio Shack back in the day? Best Buy, for those of you who are a little younger, okay? You can get a drone. You don't need a $300 million ballistic missile to shoot down a drone. So we have to reprioritize what government really stands for. Remember, our democracy is a form of government. And if we're not participating in it at every level, then the politicians get there with their donor class and their consultants, and they come up with an agenda for us. Number two, and I'm going to be very blunt. If there's one black person, I was going to say Negro, but I'm going to clean up my stuff. If there's one token Negro, you see, because I still have beef, but I'm moving on from 2024. Do not let one Negro, one token set the agenda. You don't do that in the 21st century. Y'all know that it's not healthy for our
Who are you talking about?
Oh, you know I can talk. And I ain't got a fear, not today. Because y'all know I'm Catholic. I go to church on Sunday and I be praying. I pray for everybody. We cannot, y'all, we got to go beyond tokenism, Angela, at all levels, from the presidential down to the city council, wherever you live. No one person. We have to, because what happens, that person may get compromised, and then our agenda get put on the back burner, and nobody's attending to our business. So we have to set an agenda. We don't want Hakeem to just be speaker, yeah. When Nancy became speaker, y'all, Nancy knew her assignment. She knew what she had to do. Her list of because she was not afraid. And many of you know, if you ever crossed Nancy Pelosi, you walked out the room, they know you were bleeding until you got to the hospital. We need that kind of bold leadership, folks. And we are strong in the Congressional Black Caucus. We will be stronger, Angela. And the Black Caucus, our conscience, yes, they must leverage their power. And I'll have to give you a good one. Ayanna Pressley is from the state of Massachusetts. And yet this sister, she don't represent the majority of Haitians in this country, yet this sister put forward a discharge petition, and she was able to get it passed. She bypassed the committees, she bypassed the leadership, and she went directly and was able to get 10 Republicans because she built relationships. So when it comes to the Republicans, don't just throw them out. Find you 5, find you 10. You don't need all 100 because you don't want to stink up your closet. But find a few that you might need in order to succeed. And we don't have to always go by what the rules are. Every time we get power, they want black people to live within the 4 walls and the little line. Go outside that line. Stop coloring in the box. So I'm using metaphors, but we are going to need a bold black agenda. And and Hakeem might not be able to put it forward, but whoever's the chair of the Black Caucus in the 120th Congress, that is their #1 task on January 3rd, 2027. We want a bold black, and call it that, agenda. When you target black women for dismissal, when you target black businesses for elimination, when you now target black colleges, you are threatening our survival. So don't give me no mammy-pammy. I'm trying to be clean with my language. Don't give me that mammy-pammy, fluffy, whoopy. I want some bold black shit on the plate. Some bold black shit.
Thank you very much. Yes. We want some BBS, We'll be BBS the rest of the day. Power Rising, #BBS. Okay. Joe, I want to come to you because one key component of this panel is focusing on media. And given the work that you do in the tech space and in the media space, I want to sit here for a moment. There's a responsibility traditionally that media has had to be honest, to share actuals and factuals. And that's not happening as much anymore. And it's harder, especially for people who are consuming information and news online, to sift the wheat from the tares, quite frankly. So with the rise of AI, there's a video with Donald Trump carrying a whole bag in booty shorts. I don't know if you saw it, but like, it's a whole thing. But people are using these platforms. It's really bad. Y'all probably just don't want to look for it. But people are using these platforms to spew information, and a lot of it is mis and disinformation. And at the same time, we are witnessing the demise of our black outlets. Black newspapers, black radio, black publications all over the country are suffering. So I just want to hear from you, what is the responsibility of media in this era? What's the responsibility of black media in this era, especially when they're finding themselves struggling?
Well, I think it's a very, very important conversation because we have seen the intentional wipeout of black media. When we think about the civil rights movement, because I believe in the spirit of Sankofa, you got to understand where we've come from in order to get to where we're going. And the black press was a critical partner and a motivator in the civil rights movement, where we got our information. You talked about Ida B. Wells. We talk about all of the black newspapers and black publications, and we have seen all of it nearly wiped away, and it's intentional. And also with the proliferation of mis and disinformation. Now, I spent many years and still spend a lot of time in Silicon Valley. And now what we are facing are algorithms that distort the truth. And I think this is important for us. You gotta ask yourself whenever you are online or you're consuming, and statistics show, I was reading a statistic from people of color in tech that said that black Americans consume media more than any other demographic in this country, approximately 12 hours a day. That is not a casual relationship. And so when you see someone spend billions of dollars to purchase what was Twitter, which is now X, that was really about taking away black voices because Twitter had become black Twitter. So we have to understand that the opposition to our liberation and freedom understand that information is power. And so you have to ask yourself whenever you're strolling online, I think it's important, ask yourself, who benefits from me believing what I am seeing? You have to ask yourself because there is an intentionality around us not having the truth. Right now, there are approximately 6% of those journalists, the journalists who share news, is black. And not all of those black folks are our kinfolk either. And we are seeing those with integrity and tell truth being pushed out of traditional media. We've seen Joyanne Reed, Tiffany Cross, Melissa Harris Perry, many of them black women.
Janae Norman is the newest one.
And it keeps growing. The list keeps growing. But here's what we have to recognize. Our ability to tell our own stories. That is so important. And the ability to make sure that the truth is what is still centered in this country. Because, you know, right now, a lie will go viral and the truth is still trying to find the Wi-Fi. And that's the reality that's happening right now. I don't know how many times I open up my phone and I read something, and I don't know if it's true or it's not. I'm like, I gotta go ask somebody, is it true? Also, what's important is to remember that you are the messengers that people trust. Right now, young black millennials, in study after study after study, will say they do not trust the local news anymore because they are discerning. And so they are getting their information online, they're getting their information in other places, and often because of algorithms, that information is distorted and it is an intentional lies. We have to be the truth tellers in our communities. We have to be the ones that are sharing the information, and you don't have to take this notion that just because you don't have a podcast or a network, or you might not have 1 million followers, that your voice does not matter, because absolutely it is critical right now, and it is far more important because people will pay attention to those who they trust. And I think that's what we need. We need more investment in Black media. How many of you subscribe to some form of Black media? Not subscribe for free, but you pay for it. You pay for your Black newspaper. You pay for a Substack subscription. Raise your hand high. Of course, at Power Rising, all the hands would rise. But we need to multiply that. We need to invest in our Black-owned media. We need to support Black voices. We need to amplify, but also we have to be the voices ourselves. And I think that's going to be critical in this moment, in this time, particularly with, and I hope we have a conversation about, when we talk about America in 250 years, that we could come back to a conversation about AI and what AI will do to our economy and how we need to be on top of that as a people, and particularly as Black women.
Thank you, Joe. I want to switch gears a little bit because I think that part of what is happening here as well that we need to talk about from media, and this is open to all of you, is the media consolidation that's happening. That's a big part of this as well. So there are people who are more conservative leaning who are buying up all the platforms. They tested this out first with newspapers, right? With local news stations. You brought up local news, Joe. Sinclair is a big problem in this country, but now it's the Ellisons. So the Ellisons have acquired all of Paramount, and now they've acquired all of Warner Brothers. That is CBS and CNN, when we just talk about news platforms, that will mostly be reporting on the same things. You talked about us going out and supporting Black outlets. A lot of what has traditionally been Black outlets, now they're individual content creators. I'm curious on two sides. One, I want to talk about the danger of consolidation of media. And two, how do we ensure that people aren't stretched so thin economically, because that's a reality. I don't know how many Substacks y'all subscribe to, but I'm in there, okay? It's a lot of money. And so if you're subscribing to everybody's Substack and everybody's independent platform and the extra premium, I can put stickers on your page on YouTube, that gets a little costly. What do we do to bring all of that together? Because while they're consolidating, we're dispersing.
But that's no surprise, because that's, again, a part of their strategy. So we have to recognize, in the town of the Chicago Defender and of Ebony Jet Magazine and WVON Radio, we have to make sure that, one, we are investing in our own and ensuring that we're preserving our institutions, because we know that they are deliberately under attack. We have to treat Black media as Black businesses, because that's what they are. So when we think about the attacks that are happening on small minority-owned businesses, it's that same assault that is happening to our media outlets. And so when we think about advertising dollars, we think about circulation. Dr. Mbinga Chavis said that the NMPA represents 250 newspapers. 80% of them are on the brink of extinction simply because they do not have the level of support and institutional buy-in from us as consumers. And so I want us to think about not just the problem, but solutions. So many of us have been fortunate to ascend to places and spaces where we're decision makers. We're controlling some budgets within the institutions or companies that we represent. And so I would challenge us to even think about our vocabulary. How do we even talk about Black media? It's normally defined non-traditional, non-mainstream, but we need to classify it as the essential voice. And if we start to socialize it in a way that is of priority, and we're investing dollars there, that's going to change how they're able to position themselves in the narrative space. And so when we think about the civil rights movement, before there was social media, we had survival media. It were those publications that were our means of transmission of information.
But Keiana, I'm gonna push you here just a little bit.
Yeah.
We having a sister chat, right, y'all? Okay, I'm just checking. I'm like, what room did we just drop down in? Let me find out. We got sent to the moon too, Donna. Hold on. So we had survival media then, but a lot of our outlets are still moving like survival media then and have refused or have not been able to modernize. And so what's happened in this era of white supremacist consolidation is, as I said, is there's this disbursement because people got tired of trying to push folks to modernize and said, fine, let me show you myself. What are we going to do to bridge that opportunity, partnerships? One in particular I'm thinking of is the Washington Informer did a partnership with Booker Squared, who's Elizabeth Booker Houston recently. That is a powerful way of bridging a content creator's platform, her creativity, with traditional media. We're not seeing a lot of that happening, Joe. And so, and that's why I just want to deepen into that for a moment, because we have some folks who are close to 80% about to be closing their doors, but it's been a refusal to adapt.
Can I jump in? Because you raise a very important point, because you talked about creators. And black creators are incredibly important because the creator economy is a $9 billion economy. And news is moving more towards creators. You just take a look, and also the reality is that tech bros, that is who's buying up all the media. When you think about it, Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post, the Ellisons, Warner Brothers, CNN. It is a consolidation, and it is a tech bro, and those tech bros are increasingly conservative and racist and threatened, and they have consolidated to control media. But what is also that is happening is this use of creators. Because when you think about what's happened with the podcasts, just simply watch where podcasts are on Netflix, and all of these things that are happening as a consolidation and really the independent creative voice. And we have to be innovative. And we have to more partnerships like what happened with Elizabeth Booker and the Washington Informer, because what is happening is that those that are consuming media, because we're consuming media differently. People do not sit at home at 6 o'clock, at 6:30 and watch the local news and national news like we used to. We get it on our phones. How many of you got your news this morning from your cell phone? Most of us get our news from our cell phone. And so there has to be an investment. And I think there also has to be a connection with history and our sage wisdom and our new voices. Because what's happening is I think that the greater that there is a divide, that I think it hurts our community. Because it is possible for you to be modern and also to ensure that you embrace history, and it is very possible for you to be relevant and not reckless. And I think what is happening is that when we don't have those conversations, when we're not innovative, we're not embracing these new creators that are out there, and we just say, oh, they're just over here to the side, then we are missing a great opportunity that the opposition is actually consolidating and moving in, and that is ultimately their strategy.
So that's an assignment. That's an assignment. We got our pen and paper out. So, point duly noted. So when we have these conversations that are data-driven arguments that are then connected to solutions, that is how we then build coalition. Reverend Willie T. Barrow said, we're not so much divided as we are disconnected.
That's true.
And so if we get together, and it's just for the sake of getting together, then shame on us. But to the point of building an agenda, that's a spoke in the wheel. So we are identifying that we are consumers, and that is a mindset that we have been far too comfortable in. The doctrine says that there is a need to comfort the disturbed and to disturb the comforted. We have become a little too comfortable in our spaces and places. So now that we understand our power, then that needs to be transformed to not just being on the consumer end, but to be owners and to make sure that we are advocating for making sure that our voices are heard and protected, and our institutions are going to have the level of cachet that they need to be impactful. So again, that's an assignment as a therefore of today.
I want to, I'm coming to you, Donna. I want to make sure that you all are starting to get ready with your audience questions. Who has the mic for the audience? I want to make sure that there's a floater somewhere. Okay, thank you. And then, Donna, before you answer, I want to add this. In addition to this media consolidation conversation, we also have a political pipeline issue. Some of the pipeline issue is about brokenness in our community. We all witnessed former Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax murder his wife, take his own life in the home with his children. Of course, the sister who was running for office in Florida who was just killed in a domestic violence situation. We have a number of people in our community who are so talented and seem to be on paper exactly what we need to elevate in the political process, but that does not happen absent healing. And in the 250th anniversary of this country, we certainly should be moving towards elected office whole.
There's so much I can add, both on the media side of the ledger as well as I can add on the healing we need as a community and as a nation. And we all know this country is long overdue, but our community especially, we often don't talk about the hard topics of mental health and well-being, especially with regards to many of our electeds. They have lives, they have important challenges that they have to deal with, and often it's done in the back and no one sees it until we get a big headline as we did yesterday with the sad, awful tragedy of the former Lieutenant Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, Justin Fairfax, killing his wife and then turning the gun on himself in the home with his 2 children. Justin was one of mine. I'm one of those folks, Mignon, Liam, Yolanda, all of us, we've given birth to a lot of people. I don't have a lot of stretch marks, but I've given a lot of birth to rising stars. I'll never forget, on July 16, 2016, when I'm leaving CNN to become chair of the Democratic Party, I'm in a cart with Angela and Simone, and I told you all not to cuss the white people out and to go on and continue to fulfill what I had started at CNN, along with Bakari Salas, who I brought on, Roland Martin, Van Jones. Some Negroes don't remember who got them in the door. But I was never afraid. I wasn't afraid when I got on Fox to say, y'all want Harold Ford. He got lighter skin, but I hope he got some blackness. Secession is part of what we have to do, growing the new generation. And I just want to say it back on a personal note about Justin made some mistakes, serious mistakes. And yes, he had to atone for those mistakes. And yes, he had to deal with some personal issues. His wife, Serena Fairfax, brilliant, community-oriented black dentist. People loved her. We're grieving for the children, for the families of both Justin as well as Serena. So please hold them in your prayers, your thoughts, your prayers. But we as a community, sometimes black women, we must lead this conversation. We need to encourage our brothers to lead this conversation as well and bring this to light so that we can have this moment. And yes, bring it to light that we want succession planning. You know how hard it was for me to write a column? I got criticized by some of my own sisters, but I didn't care. I love Eleanor Holmes Norton. I love her like I love my own mother, and she said she would be my mother along with Mian's mother. I'm blessed to have several. But the point is, we gotta have succession. We gotta talk about these things, and hopefully we can do it within our community. Now, I wanna tell you somebody who started on a typewriter and a tape recorder from Radio Shack. The old media world is collapsing right under me. AI, which I dislike, but I got my own girl. Her name is Gladys, because I figured Gladys can get the pips to say something. I'm going to get this. I was going to call her a word, but I'm going to get her. Okay? Me and ChatGPT got in a fight the other day. I fight these AI generators. Y'all know they're not smarter than you? They might be able to correct some grammar, but if you don't know enough to tell them what to do, they will tell you what to do and how to do it. I asked one of my little AIs, could she make my mama's gumbo? And that child came back. I said, this is soup. Delete you. Okay, I said a bad word. So algorithms, influencers, content creators, and the tech platform, that's the future. I don't want to hear nobody complaining about this. This river has been flowing for the last 3 to 4 years. When you start streaming all that stuff, y'all saw it coming. Don't tell me y'all didn't see it coming. It was coming. So who controls information? Okay? Now, if you want to give it to Elon Musk, you want to give it to Mr. Ellison and his whatever, and Mr. Bezos, that's up to you. How is it created? Who's going to create it? And how will people experience it? So we have to get ahead of it, get beyond it, and again, like I said earlier, come through it, because it's already moving at light speed. The old model is gone. It's gone. And here's what I want to tell you, because sometimes when y'all talk, I have to write things down, because I'm getting to that age where I might forget one word. 2 people can live in the same household and consume different realities on TV. Okay? That's how our communities are being broken apart, because of distrust and disinformation, because people can live in the same household and consume different. Same is true in the community and now a country. We need to get ahead of this as a community. And clearly, black women, our voices must be in this conversation. Angela knows, and many of you, Karen, those of us who have to do TV or radio or all the things we do in our lives, I write too. I got a great column today on the Pope. I'm gonna try to get it all the way up to the Catholic Church, because anytime I get a little bonus point when I go and confess my sins, maybe I won't have all that stuff to repeat and recite. I told them I'm getting too old for that. Just give me some wine, I might not do it again. But folks, we have to be prepared for how the digital age will either wipe us out or leave us further behind. We talk about the 600,000 black women either looking for work, losing work. Imagine when AI get in the middle of your life.
Yeah.
You send AI your favorite platform, your resume tomorrow, or later today when you get good Wi-Fi, and say, what am I missing? What should I do next? What industries or jobs will be looking for me? I mean, challenge AI, folks. It is being created based on what you are already giving it. And if you don't give it nothing, it ain't gonna give you nothing. So get ready for it, and don't be afraid. Just like I sat at a typewriter when I was 7 years old, sat at a tape recorder, and I've worked for PBS, ABC, Fox, written for Roll Call, Essence. I can't tell you. All I'm telling you is I'm going to survive AI because I'm going to create my own girlfriend. And we're going to have pillow talk, late night talks, morning walks. And
Donna, we're going to stage an intervention.
She going no, this is some personal stuff. I'm creating her. I know what I want from AI. If you don't know what you want from AI, AI going to tell you what you want.
Can I say?
Wait, hold on, Joe. Let's go to a question. We have a question? Oh, no, you're offering questions. Okay, go ahead, Jotaka. I thought she had a question.
Yeah, I want to say something about AI, and I think what history has taught us in this country is every time there has been a great a great moment of wealth creation in the United States, black folks have either been excluded or exploited through it. So historically, when we look at the Industrial Revolution, black folks got pushed in the fields, white folks went in the factories and created middle class for themselves. The GI Bill, where many of our grandfathers and great-grandfathers went to war and fought and came home, where 1.2 million black veterans could not get houses or the home loans or everything that they were promised because banks systematically denied them. When we look at the dot-com tech boom in the 90s, where there was a great amount of wealth. When you think about it, Google or Airbnb or all of these billion-dollar companies were not in existence 20 years ago. And now what we see in Silicon Valley, venture dollars controlled by the tech bros, black women get less than 0.1% of venture dollars, less than 2% of small business loans, despite being the most educated. AI by 2033, 2033. Now, it's 2026 right now, almost 2027. AI will be a $4.3 trillion industry. The question is, how are we going to move in that industry? Now, there are some projections that say that there will be approximately 170 million jobs AI will create. But at the same time, it will make 92 million jobs redundant. Now, some people may say that's an increase, the net is going to be an increase of jobs. But the reality is, what we know is that talent is distributed equally, but opportunity is not. And those jobs that AI will wipe out will largely be jobs that historically black folks, and particularly black women, have held. So it is incredibly important for us to be in on this AI, but AI also has to have guardrails because it is very dangerous with the myths and the dis and all of the everything negative that can happen. Equally as important for us to make sure that we're skilled, we also have to make sure, and shout out to all of these great policy leaders that are leading on policy around AI, but we have to be a part of it because there's a lot of wealth happening. OpenAI is probably going to IPO very soon. Ashton Kutcher is going to become a billionaire. He stands to gain about $1.3 billion. Now, he's very talented, but I would dare say he's probably a mediocre white guy. And so there's going to be a lot of wealth that is going to be created and a lot of liquidity with the IPO of probably about 2 to 3 companies over the next 2 to 3 years, and some of them coming sooner than later. And we have to be prepared in this, in particularly, and I have seen it with my own 2 eyes, of multiple IPOs and liquidity, because what happens is the rich keeps getting richer, and those of us who do not have the access will continue to get pushed further behind. So we have to pay attention to AI.
Thank you, Joe. We have a question over here. Say your name, where you're from, and your question, please.
Terry Taylor, Chicago, Illinois, Win with Black Women, Illinois. Question, what is the local political strategy that we should implement? In my area, DuPage County, you see this purple dress? We took red and blue and put them together and got purple because it's only 1% of black where I live, so I had to grow where I was planted, and we end up flipping a county that had been a 187-year Republican to blue, and then they ran me out the county. Anyway, second question, domestic violence.
Hold on. We're going to maybe answer your first question because it sounds like you already had the answer. She said, what do I do? And then she said they flipped the district. So y'all have an answer?
So first of all, congratulations for being so dogged and steadfast and not bowing to what is the perceived power system in place. But I would challenge you to continue to mobilize and educate, because we have to demystify this notion of what cannot be. And so just as you have been able to educate yourself on policies that resonate within your community, then you have to make sure that you are spreading that same gospel amongst your colleagues and your circles and your circles of influence. These kind of conversations, I say again, are so important for us to be able to talk about how we have been able to overcome what barriers were put in place. And so we know that we have some critical policies. We've been talking about several of them now. We need to make sure that our young people, we keep talking about voter education, voter registration. There's a piece of legislation that has been introduced in the State House, which is the Jesse Jackson public policy bill, which would provide young people with civic engagement and a voter registration card post-graduation. We need to make sure that that is the norm. It is not just the exception, but it becomes the rule. So we have to continue to socialize these milestones that we're making and to continue to make sure that we are expanding the tent so that there is more inclusion, more opportunity, more education, and to make sure that we're holding our elected officials that are in office accountable. But that again connects back to us having an agenda so that we are rowing in the same direction and that we are harnessing the talent that is in this room, but to make sure that we are continue to advance the needle.
Thank you. We'll try to come back to your second question. Give me a moment. Yes.
Pamela Anderson from Chicago, now in DC. I thank you all so much for being here. I'm a first-time attendee. But I want to talk a bit, and thank you, Donna, for giving us permission to talk about the hard subject matters when you say sometimes we don't want to talk about it. But when we talk about consumerism and our commitment to understanding the power of our dollars, how can we underscore that? One of your kids, Roland Martin, recently had on Actively Black. And he talked about the challenges that we just don't buy from black companies often because of the perception that the brand names are more important, specifically with younger folks. I've heard on native land talk about the people going to concerts, right? Paying whatever amount of money to go see Kanye West. So how can we make this whole consumer discussion fundamentally? Because we can talk about business opportunities all day long, but if we don't conceptually understand the need to support each other, those small businesses won't survive.
Well, as a small business owner, and by the way, when this girl got launched, I was part of that, my little business. And I'm grateful because every time one of them come out, I get a new one, okay? I used to think, and maybe, forgive me, it's not Sunday, I don't confess on Fridays. But I used to say, if I'm a consumer, then I need to own it. That was my business model. And I've always tried to practice what I preach in terms of trying to invest in us as much as possible, okay? Knowing that when I want my gas, okay, to fill my tank. We don't have that ethos. When I get my SAG-AFTRA, I'm a member of 2 unions, SAG-AFTRA, SEIU. I look for every black performer. I try to figure out what the hell they've been performing in, if they did, and I try to figure out, can I give them my vote? Our consciousness around us, because we have been led and told that our products, our people, our whatever is imperfect, like us. We're not good, and that's just not true. And so we need to figure out ways to have more conversations around building black enterprises, black businesses, supporting black newspapers. Is a race say all things black? And the underwear go with it. Okay. You got to understand, if we don't do it, we are going to be losing out on the future. Now, here's my strategy. You know they wanted us to buy this. AT&T and Verizon wanted y'all to get their lines. And Mignon gave me, through Dewey Square, a little extra space to have me a business. I hired consultants, and I wasn't greedy. I said, I don't know nobody in Detroit. I said, I know Lavonia Allison, I know Ann Rainwater, my Jesse Jackson network. I knew Bill, who worked for David Dinkins in New York. I knew somebody. You have to do that. And I now, before I get too old, I'm going to go to them tech bros that Jotaka keep talking about, right? Because, see, I ain't afraid to go in the room, cuss them out, and go to hell to the bar and forget about it. We got to go in those rooms and say we need to have black involvement. Just like Jamie Dimon went around this country saying, I want to have, Chase Banks open up in the community. It really wasn't just about you depositing in Chase. He wanted you to get that damn Chase credit card. Y'all understand when you know how power works in America, capitalism? Now, you may not even like capitalism, okay? But this is the system that we live under. So we have to benefit from it. Why are we not thinking about benefit and leveraging our power? So we all have responsibilities to teach and to train and to invest in each other. And perhaps that's what we should tell people. Some people say, well, I'm not rich. Well, hell, you got a house, you got this, you're rich. Yeah. You're rich. Leverage that. That's my solution.
Okay,
And I'll just add,
sorry, friend. I want to make sure we get to all these questions. And if we can, ladies, I love y'all. Let's be quicker so we can get to everybody. Yes.
My name is Sharita Logan. I get to serve as the district director for the Honorable Congressman Danny Kenyatta Davis. And I want to give homage to all of you great women on that stage. My question is, how do we get the mainstream media, as opposed to when they talk about Mr. Epstein, to talk about how much money in contracts those folks that are around them are making and how much we're losing? We talk about power, and power is in our commerce, it's in our dollars, but it's billions of dollars being spent in contracts. How do we get them to talk about that while they talk about everything else? What's our impact?
Are you talking about federal contracts?
Yes, how much money is being spent daily, how much Elon Musk and others are making daily while we're losing dollars daily.
That has to be the agenda of the 120th Congress. When the Democrats take control of the House or the Senate, and it's possible to take care of both, then that has to be on the agenda. The Black Covenant, I was telling Angela, now it shouldn't be called anything called shit. But the Black Covenant has to be an agreement that we're going to uncover where all of this money, and by the way, it is like they're not even bidding for contracts, they're being given contracts. Just think about Christy Nome, the fire DHS chief. She was spending, last year, a facility was so-called value at $29 million in a place in Georgia. She spent $120 million. Now, who profited from that? We need to find out all of this, and this is why we need a bold agenda and not be afraid to ask those tough questions. We're not going to get any answers from the Republicans right now. We must demand that this is on the agenda for the 120th Congress.
And to that point, and again, all politics is local. In the state of Illinois, we have 5 freshmen members of the congressional delegation that will be a part of the new Congress because of retirement or choosing not to run. And so the Business Leadership Council, which is the premier Black business policy organization here in Chicago, which I happen to be the CEO of, we intentionally collaborated with the Chicago Urban League and many other organizations to host candidate forums because we need to make certain that we are having representatives that understand our needs and that we're going to be their accountability partner. And so when we talk about contracts, when we talk about economic opportunities, we cannot assume they know. We have to make sure that we are going to hold them accountable, that we are ensuring that there is an agenda and a policy put forth to make sure that our elected officials are going to make sure that what is happening in D.C. translates outside of the Beltway and is going to make real impact in our communities and in our neighborhoods.
Thank you. Next question. Right here.
Thank you. Yes, can we put automatic, universal voter registration on Donna Brazile's Bold Black agenda?
Yes, and I would love to know your name and where you're from. Can that be on your agenda? She says yes.
Felicia Pulliam, St. Louis, Missouri.
Thank
I'm
you.
loving this panel. You
Thank you.
lift my joy.
Thank you. Next question.
Hi, my name is Sharon Latiker, and I am here from the city of Chicago. Thank you all so much for coming to our great city. There's a scripture that says, when the power is in your hand, do right. Thank you all so much for doing right by bringing us into this space. My question is, when we talk about AI, all of this, how do we, as black women, invest in this? We're talking about the $1 trillion and all this, what is being made. I want some of the pie too. So how do we invest? Come on, sisters, how do we invest? How do we get a piece of the pie?
Thank you.
So I'm going to be very brief. Oh.
Real quick, if we can, Karen, thank you so much. She just mentioned that there is an AI session this afternoon at 2 p.m. And so why don't we ensure that you go to that session and we'll get that answered. There's 9 minutes remaining. I'm going to let you ask your question quick. Oh, Lord, ladies, come on. Okay, really quick, these couple right here, and then we're going to see you after, friend. We're going to do these three, and then I want to close out with y'all, and we're going to be quick, okay? So one answer per. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'll be really quick. My name is Ro. I am the policy manager at IF, a Foundation for Radical Possibility based in DC. My question is, I work really closely with community members who have become very disillusioned with the political process and government and, quite frankly, the Democratic Party. So I'm wondering, from your perspectives, especially in talking about media, what has been the most effective narratives for engaging particularly black women who materially are struggling right now?
I think when you decide to run for office, your why is the most important thing. Why are you running? What do you hope to accomplish? You have to bring people in it. For black women, your resume is also part of your why because people want to look at your qualifications. For women with the double bond, it's also your competence. Are you ready? And so I think as black women navigating this political space in the 21st century, we have to bring our whole selves, our authentic self to the table. That's why when I mentioned that woman who won in Drake County in Iowa, West Des Moines, when I mentioned the sister who won statewide in Georgia, they led with their resume, with their vision, and their why they wanted to transform that particular area or why they wanted to help lead that particular state. We have to, and there's so much good research, and there are people in this room who can share that with you as well. But remember, this moment is about you. So why you? Because there's no one better, and why now? Because tomorrow's not soon enough. So get ready, prepare your day, and get ready to run.
Right here.
My name is Betty Magnus. I'm from Chicago, Illinois.
Is that Betty? Betty, get in that microphone. You know better. Reverend Jackson taught you how to speak up. Now, get in that microphone, Betty.
No, what I'm trying to say is Keiana brought up the bill, the youth bill, Jesse Jackson Empowerment Bill. It passed out of the House, but I think we need to carry it across the country because Reverend Jackson always said, graduate from high school with a diploma in one hand, voter registration in the other hand. If we want young people to get involved and turn this country around because it's their turn, we've had our turn, Donna, I think we need to be able to explain to them why it's important to register and vote. And once they register and vote, it carries on. And that's one way we can get more young people involved, because that's my concern. They are not involved because they don't understand the importance of registering and voting.
Okay, and then I think we had,
Thank you,
there was
Betty.
one more hand here. I think that's just this.
There's one right there.
Okay. This is really going to be our last two right here.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Sabrina Flagg Briggs, and I live in Florida by way of New Jersey. I've been in Florida for 2 years. And I want to say that after 35 years in the Air Force, I retired in 2021. And I thought I was done. And then come the National Association of Black Military Women, and then come National Council of Negro Women. And then I went on a cruise, and I thought I was done. But Jotaka put me to work with Women with Black Women. And I want to say, I used to have this question, and my question was, what are they going to do? And since I don't use profanity, I used to say, what are these mofos going to do? And I stopped saying that when I realized they're not going to do what we need them to do, and I now say, what are we going to do? So I decided that being here, I don't have a question for just you all. I have a question for everyone, that as we meet in the hallway, let's talk about what are we going to do. So that is my question. That is all.
That's
Thank
amazing.
you. Love it, baby.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tasia Clark. I am from Chicago, Illinois. Thank you all for being here today and for being on this panel. I have a quick question. Similar to how we talked about earlier, voter registration, how do we form a collective strategy to build and buy collectively in the Black community so that we aren't just consumers? Similar to what you all were talking about earlier, in terms of media and policy and healthcare and all of that, we need Black dollars to support that. And previously, we had an economic engine for Black people. How do we get that back in our community?
If I can, how many of you all are interested in answering that question and working on a strategy around something like that? Raise your hands. Okay, tell me your name again.
Tasia Clark.
Tasia. So can you all see Tasia right when we finish? And then let's start really putting some of this to work. That's how I resolve this.
Tasia,
Now,
I'll follow up with you too as
Keiana,
well.
help me, sis. We're trying to end.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So the
No,
Business
no.
Leadership Council, again, we all
No,
are.
Keiana, please, let me get,
Okay, go
just
ahead.
wrap
Okay,
it into your
yeah,
call to
yes,
action.
yes.
I want to be on time. I want to get in
Yes,
trouble
I
with
want
Bishop or
decently in
me.
order.
Thank you so much. Okay, so on the question of the 250th, I want us to end with what the Declaration says. So often, people focus on this first part, but this is where I want you all to lean in. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is the part they forget. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. So as we leave from here and we consider what is required of us in this 250th, how are we going to alter or abolish the thing that has caused us so much pain, and how do we ensure that we do this with these women at Power Rising? I'll start with you, Joe.
So that's very powerful. Thank you for reminding us of that. When I think about 250 years later, and I think about all of us sitting in this room, yes, we have come very far. We have survived. But there is still so much more. And Black women, we have often been the bridge between what America is and what America should be. And in this moment, when I think about what you just read, I think it's very important that we recognize that in this moment, our collective power, our collective ability to stand in unity is what will liberate us. It is our ability to see each other. It is our ability to respect each other and our ability to invest in each other. That is going to be our liberation. And recognizing that America is not the promise that those words state. And we have an obligation as a people to challenge it. It is our obligation to challenge it. And what history has taught us, our own people, what they have taught us is that progress and resistance is essential to the pursuit of liberation. And that is what we have to remember in this moment. The final thing I would say is that when we think about how far we have come as a people, the resistance, we have to think, our ancestors, our great-great-great-grandmothers and grandfathers were plucked out of their own land, brought over an ocean, and still survive. Your standing here in this room, being in this room, is an example of survival. And we have not survived in the way that we have to simply just to be a speck in America. And yes, we have fought for a seat at the table, but no longer do I just want a seat at the table. I want us to own the house. That is what we deserve in this country, and I think in this moment it is important for us not to lose sight of that. As Bishop told us this morning, this is not the moment of time to shrink. This is a time for us to rise. When we think about the African bamboo tree, when you plant that tree for the first 5 years, there is no visible growth. Because what is happening is that tree is planting roots. That tree is planting roots so that in its 5th year, that tree in 90 days grows a staggering 90 feet in the air. And so what is important for us to recognize is that we, black women, are the bamboo tree. We are making sure that we are creating roots in this country that will stand the winds that they will create. And when we are connected and when we are together, there is nothing that can stop progress. But it is important for us to challenge what America says that it should be so that all of its people, including us, are free and liberated.
Amen. So indulge me real quick. Lift your hands up as high as you can. Lift them up a little higher. Case in point, when you think you've done all you can do, guess what? You can do a little more. So take that from here and make that your clarion call. Fannie Lou Hamer said it best. I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. But let's keep soaring, let's keep working, let's keep collaborating, and let's keep moving forward.
First of all, again, I want to just say thank you. Thank you, Power Rising. Thank you to our co-conveners. Thank you to the board. Thank you all. Democracy is more than a system of government. It is a covenant with the people. It's a covenant with the people. That's what Angela was reciting. And just never forget that it's going to, when you are in a democracy, it's asking something of each of us. Participation, vigilance, courage. It demands that we protect the rule of law, defend the right to vote, and it reject, part of what Angela, that portion that she was reading, it reject those who would trade freedom for power. So as we finish this conversation on 250, we have to stop the consolidation of power that will oppress us, take away our rights, remove the rule of law. And the way to stop that is to vote. That's one way to stop it. The second way is we have to stand up to it, not acquiesce, not act as if we have no power, because we have a lot of power. And the first thing they want to do is to tell us we have no power. We have a lot of power. We speak up, we stand up, we show up, and we get ready to come through this with fire, but fire that will blaze a new trail for America for the next 250 years. I look forward to all of us, as this young sister said, and thank you for your service. I look forward to all of us asking ourselves, what can we do in this moment to help our people, our community, and our country get through this fire? Because we will lead the way. I guarantee you, black women will lead the way.
Ladies, give it up for Donna Brazile, Keiana Barrett, and Jotaka Eaddy. Thank you all so much.